Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Speedplay Italy and Hearts of Iron 3 number 4. We left off having secured all of the Balkans. France is in the process of being defeated by the Germans. We're going to create a few more occupational forces, just 1 mechanized, 2 cavalry. That might be a little bit much to deal with rebels, but hopefully not so much. You'll see that there is a battle plan worked out. First things first, we're going to start pulling groups of infantry from Anatolia where they're no longer necessary, and get ready for this campaign, as you can see, already lined up. So first things first, get these troops over to the French border. The French still have troops on our border, even though we're neutral, technically. So they're not in that terrible of a position, and we can spend, well, okay, they're pulling their troops from our border, which means the French now see this as a very huge concern, so we're going to really need to step this up and get this done quickly. We're going to take our armored units to North Africa, hopefully get them some supplies pretty quickly, and we're really going to need to get ready to declare this war and press forward into France if we're going to get anything before they collapse. Now, this does pretty much mean that we have picked the German side, at least in this part of the campaign. Now, the Allies will probably not make peace with us once we do actually go to war with them. That's probably going to be an option completely thrown out, and to an extent, our fate is now aligned with the Germans, or will be as soon as we declare this war. However, at this point, I'm not too concerned. As long as we're able to complete this war plan, we have our submarines getting into position, we have declared the war, let's attack. If we can just take the Mediterranean Sea, we will have breathing room long enough that we can hopefully turn the tide against the Allies. France is still over 50% of the way from collapsing and surrendering, so we might have some decent amount of time. We need to go pick up our Marines, get our Air Force to just do operations throughout the Mediterranean while the British can still operate here as well. Our armored units are pressing forward, our Marines are beginning their landings on Cyprus. We are having a bit of supply issues through the east, hopefully that will clear up once we actually take it. Now we have taken over Cyprus, we're going to rush over and take over the port in Tel Aviv. And we can just keep adding war goals against the British and eventually against the French. We're going to try to take all of their African provinces and hope for the best. Now we did take Tel Aviv, that's great news. We're pressing forward on the French mainland. And we're going to pick our Marines up and try to go somewhere else with them, most likely Malta. Now it looks as though there are not actually any British defenders in Alexandria or Cairo or Al-Qahira, however that's supposed to be pronounced. And the French are also putting up very minor resistance. So we timed this fantastically. Long term, maybe it was kind of a national suicide pact attacking the Allies, but in the short term, it looks as though it's going to be very easy and straightforward, which is pretty fantastic. We are losing a lot of ships, but we did manage to take over Malta, which is worth it, completely worth it. We didn't lose any of our Marines, which is fantastic news. And while it does look as though there are a few French regiments, they are also being attacked by the Germans, so we don't really have to worry about their resistance all that much. Now we are crossing the Suez Canal zone, we're sending our transports forward, and we're going to try to snipe some of these North African French bases before they collapse. I'm not entirely certain how it works when the fall of France occurs, if we'll be able to keep the lands that we occupy, or if those will all be transferred to Vichy France. Honestly, it could go either way, but we're going to hedge our bets a little and just try to take as much as we possibly can, in the event that we do get to keep it all. Meanwhile, technology's still just rolling about. We focus a bit heavily on Navy, as our Navy is getting kind of beaten up right now. It looks as though we are losing one of these battles against the French, which is kind of awful. Our Marines did manage to land. We're putting our Navy back in port so it won't die. And next up is going to just be the rest of French North Africa, all the major port cities, and then we will rush over to take Gibraltar and completely defeat the Allies in the Mediterranean. That's at least the goal. Now it looks as though one of our militaries might get encircled, and they have just been encircled. Hopefully we can manage to breach and rescue them before anything terrible happens. Although honestly it doesn't quite look like we will. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, though, we are just facing complete success. We're setting up some really long, really long, intricate orders. We did lose that one group in France, which is terribly sad, and probably the only victory the French are going to have in this war. Which, although sad, I mean, well, we've got to hand it to them. They probably deserved at least one. And I probably could have planned that a little bit better. I was just kind of expecting them to collapse. No matter, though. And, alright, so the fall of France occurred, and we didn't get anything in Africa, and we didn't get more than half of what we took in Europe. But we did get half, so that's more than nothing. If we hadn't fought at all, we wouldn't have gotten even that. We are going to begin our attack on Gibraltar. It looks to be going well. We've cleaned out Tel Aviv for the second time, and our forces are going to just roll through the rest of the British Middle East. Now, we are fighting a few naval battles, but we did just take Gibraltar. We've already taken Malta. So that is the entire Allied Mediterranean presence gone and dead. Which is pretty fantastic news. That means we have all the breathing room we'll need. We're just going to send our armored groups up to go take over Iraq. And with that all said and done, there is still a tiny bit of Iraqi and British forces in Anatolia, which we will go and deal with. But other than this little mopping up operation in the Far East, we're really just done. There are apparently some British submarines or something still kicking around in the Mediterranean, but I doubt they'll be too effective as they should be running out of supplies. All said and done, we're also going to just put our troops on the border of Switzerland, as we lost quite a few transports, so we really can't transport our infantry groups around as we would have liked to. The Battle of Iraq is going very in our favor, as it really was expected to. So that should hopefully be cleaned up fairly soon. We'll go ahead and hope to annex them, which means we'll just have to take Turkit, which is not defended at all. And from here, we are really in a point where we can just pause for a while and build up. We don't need to be doing anything too crazy from now on. We could potentially march through Persia into India or Saudi Arabia and take all the Gulf states and their oil. Or we could go into Spain, clean out Spain, and get potential staging grounds for an invasion of Great Britain proper. All of these are things that we can do. And Saudi Arabia and all that does have a bit of oil. We're not really hurting for oil right now, so we're not going to do that yet. And it's a lot of land that would really open us up and have a lot of problems defending. Whereas right now, since everyone's neutral on our border, we kind of don't have to worry about defense. So we're going to attack the Swiss because we have a lot of armies next to the Swiss, and it's probably at least a little bit of industrial capacity that we'll be able to really just take from them. We do have some of our Air Force still doing things. We'll just kind of get them to stop. We have a few more of these defensive groups, rebel suppression groups ready. So we'll probably just place them around and about where we need to. And while this war against the Swiss is going a little slowly, we're also going to navally bomb that one group of submarines to hopefully get rid of them. Ultimately, though, while the invasion of Switzerland isn't going so very smoothly, it is going fairly well, and we are making great progress, so hopefully it won't be such a long battle. And this is really the time we have to build up, as the Allies can't really do anything to hurt us. The Axis forces are probably getting ready for Barbarossa. The Russians are probably getting ready for Barbarossa. And we can just keep eating minor powers to our heart's content for the next few months, if not years. Now, one important thing to remember is that since we are still technically neutral, the only thing we really need to do is defeat the British and Allies in general, because they won't make peace with us, and they especially won't give us all the things that we really do deserve. So that's going to be a long-term solution, a long-term thing that we need to do. Ultimately, though, we do want to, first of all, take over all of Egypt so they just don't have any territories there. Ultimately, we do want to conquer the world, so we're going to have to focus on just how we're able to do that. And the first thing that we're going to need to do is get all of these infantry groups to our ports so that we can move them to whatever theater they need to be moved to. We do have one rebellion which we can deal with local forces. And we're just going to get all of our armored units ready. We'll put them on the border of Vichy, France, and probably carry them over to Spain. Since no one's really fighting right now, and we are only fighting the Allies, if we take over Spain and Portugal, that will give us a decent staging ground to fight the British. It does also open us up, admittedly, to British landings and just general British harassment from the sea. That's really something worth risking, though, as it does look as though there are some British forces in Spain. I checked a little earlier, so we should probably just nip that problem in the bud right now. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Have a great day.